When I think of the gold rush miners, I think of typhoid, actually, mostly because it killed a bunch of Australian miners over many years, but we digress, because the things I don't think about are modern blue pans and modern blue big sluice boxes. And whilst the gold rush of long ago seems like it was forever ago and not really relevant to us today, I just want to point out that the entire Industrial Revolution happened at the same time as the gold rush. The American Civil War, from beginning to end, also happened during the gold rush. At the same time Abraham Lincoln was making the Emancipation Proclamation, the 1,000 ounce Eagle No. 3 nugget was being dug up. The World Council thinks we've mined about 212,500 tons of gold in total ever, 2% of which came from just Victoria during the gold rush. My point of saying this is that we are actually in the midst of another gold rush. Gold is as high as it has ever been. And I don't mean high as in Snoop Dogg high, I mean high as in serious money high. And that's why myself, Kyle, Gadsy, Mick, and many other people you've seen on my channel are out here with gold pans. When I first started, gold was worth about $45 a gram. Today, it's worth $147 a gram.
Oh my God!
There are, of course, a lot of reasons why the gold price has gone up so much, but there's one thing I can be certain on. We're seeing more prospectors come back to the gold fields than ever before. All in search of this, gold that the old timers left behind, gold that wasn't worth their energy or effort in picking up. But then they were making $4 an ounce for it, which today wouldn't even buy you half of one smashed avocado on toast, yet alone an entire house. Inflation's a hell of a thing. Anyway, Kyle and I were out on the creek looking for gold that the old timers had left behind. Old bench deposits that weren't worth them processing back then, but certainly are today. Most mining operations in the gold rush were a consortium of young men looking to strike it rich, and they were utilizing methods we can't use today, so we have to work smarter, not harder. River sluices, and sluices in general, are what we call a force multiplier. They allow us to process more dirt than we could panning because they give us a break after we collect the dirt. You know, a break where we get to sit down in the invasive spiky bushes on the bank that Parks Victoria should have got rid of, but instead decided to close up a national park so no one could access it. Once again, we've digressed. Gold prospecting has always been a numbers game. Back in the day, they had limited ability to catch the super fine gold that's often in these gold fields. And yeah, there are some really nice places you can go across the world to get huge gold nuggets if you are so lucky enough to find them, but the next gold rush, the gold rush we're currently in 2025, is all about fine gold. It's pretty impressive, 170 years of continuous mining and there's still gold here. As recently as 9 years ago when I started prospecting full time, even this wouldn't have been worth it, but today, that amount of gold will make you a livable wage. And the price is only going up. Part of the reason we are able to make a decent day's wage off fine gold is because of technologies like the Big Blue Sluice here. It's utilizing older technology that was in the gold rush, but in a modern way. New riffle design, new materials mean that we have a lighter, more efficient, hardier, and faster processing unit than what the old timers could have ever dreamed of. Nevertheless, this is essentially the same technology that the old guys were using, less the mercury. Which I'm going to be honest was probably great back then, but today we've got some probably better methods that don't end up as you being a main character in Alice in Wonderland. And with gold rapidly approaching 5,000 Australian dollars an ounce, I can't see why this is going to slow down anytime soon. In fact, I would guess that we're about to receive a huge influx of new people onto the creek. And if that sounds like you, perhaps hit the subscribe button, because that's what we do here, teach people how to find gold, what to look for, and where to cash it in. After dumping only a couple of pans down the sluice, I was starting to see a little bit of gold showing up in the reveal mat. The reveal mat? Sounds like a sexy stripper name. I'm going to call this sluice Candy. The more I looked, the more Candy revealed. Just look at that little pile of gold in the middle of the first drop riffle. And I wasn't the only one having success on the creek. Kyle's sluice box was running what basically every miner since the gold rush has been running, just with modern materials. Simple setups like Kyle's work really well. It's that old adage, If it ain't broke, don't fix it. AstroTurf is an amazing catch system. I mean, just look, there's gold right at the top of the sluice. I'm well aware that little specks like this don't look like much. They don't look like they'd add up to anything. But that is the beauty of being in a modern gold rush. The price means that these tiny specks are worth a fortune when you find a lot of them.
Oh yeah, I see gold in that right there.
And it's crazy to think that right now we could be experiencing the same exact thing I laid out at the start. We have world-changing events going on all around us right now. History-setting moments. And that really begs the question, with the prices of gold so high and so many people moving into gold prospecting both at a hobby and professional level, will we be considered the new old-timers?
Caught enough black sand. Yeah, boy.
I mean, think about it. This is an unprecedented point in history for both gold prices and world history.
Good work, Kyle.
Will this video end up in some form of digital textbook in the future? I don't know. What I do know is the big blue sluice have been chugging away at pans for the better part of 2 hours, and I wanted to see how much gold I'd managed to collect out of the old bench deposit. This spot has always been kind to me, but you never know in gold prospecting. Sometimes you get a bonanza, at other times you just get bitter disappointment and resentment.
All that work turned into less than a pan.
I actually count myself really lucky that I was able to learn most of my gold prospecting techniques from someone who was willing to show me, and I've developed those skills further by answering questions here on YouTube and doing experiments.
That is a lot of black sand. We're gonna have to clean this up at home.
Back in the day, you had nothing.
Yep. I mean, we can try and sneak peek at what's in there, right?
I couldn't imagine how long it would take to learn all of this.
Oh yeah, it's looking good.
On my own. I was only able to see a little bit of gold out on the creek. I had to take the cons home and run them over my cleanup sluice. Considering this might be in history books in the near future, there are a couple of things that I'm going to try and predict. First, gold is definitely going to hit 5,000 Australian dollars an ounce. But I think it'll hit 5,000 US dollars an ounce in the next 18 months to 2 years. I'm certainly not a financial planner, and I am not the person that you should be taking financial advice from. I'm basing what I'm saying off other people's opinions that I've read in books and a couple of friends of mine that are way smarter than me. And it's that information that let me predict that gold was going to hit 5,000 Australian dollars an ounce about 2 years ago. I think we're going to see a huge influx of people at least doing hobby prospecting to make a little bit of extra cash on the weekends. And it makes sense in this day and age of information overload to utilize some of that information to make yourself a bit of extra cash on the weekends. I mean, hell, the people I sold pay dirt to 5 years ago have tripled the money they spent on my pay dirt. And I just want to take a moment to shout out to all the legends who jumped over and signed up for my Patreon account. The first pay dirt for the $25 tier has been shipped out, and your next one will be out next month. And just a friendly reminder that we have over 1,000 videos on Vo-Gus prospecting teaching you how to find your very own gold, as well as gold pay dirt, gold nuggets, and crystals up on theoldmoldy.com.au. What I can tell you is the old bench deposit we were working did have a reasonable amount of gold in it. Both Kyle and I had been working okay spots, not the best, but also not the worst, and this means that we were expecting somewhere between half and 3/4 of a gram of gold, or between 75 and 100 Australian dollars, which for 2 hours work is pretty damn good. I processed about 10 pans per hour, and that's the gold I managed to recover. I even got some chunky bits, which I was genuinely surprised about, because normally in this spot we get the small fine gold. What's your favourite crossover in time? Abraham Lincoln and a giant gold nugget getting found was pretty cool, but I reckon you guys could do better. But at the end of the day, gold is gold, and I'm happy to have a little bit more for my retirement fund. I mean, it is the modern gold rush. If you're not out there with a pan, you're missing out on an opportunity to make some easy cash as long as you live in the right area. I reckon we got our half gram. It makes sense. It looks like it's about half a gram. I even got the gold pretty clean this time, which is unusual for me. What's your guess? Leave it in the comments below. No cheating, getting in before I get all the gold on the scales. 0.3, 0.4, 0.5? Yeah, we've still got more to go, but we got our 0.5. How much more? Ooh, 0.6, 0.7? 0.74? Obviously there are a few black sands in there for future Chris to worry about. But that gold is worth about 100 Australian dollars at the time of recording, and for 2 hours work, that's a pretty good gig. So there's only really one question left. Are you joining the gold rush? Or are you going to let me and Kyle have the creek all to ourselves?